Welcome to TM Broadcasting. We are coming to you live from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Today's date is June the 10th in the year of our Lord, 2022. Tonight, Sasha Suter and I have the great pleasure of welcoming Marilyn Page, Allison Smith, Roy Ecups, Lorraine Valente, and Dayna to our newly acquired station. TM Broadcasting is a listener-funded radio station. Donations may be made at https://AIHR.foundation or targetedmassachusetts.org. If you'd like to call in and listen, dial 1-518-801-1318. If you have a question, you can call 1-617-987-8603. And we are off to another roundtable discussion. Okay, I'd like to introduce Lorraine Valente. She represents all of the animals in the world, I swear. She caters to all of the animals that have been abused, violated, and thrown away. Marilyn Page is a very severely targeted individual. And then we have Dayna, who is also a severely targeted individual. And is that you, Sasha, down below? I don't recognize anything about that. This could be Roy, too. I'm not really sure. SM-A, can you identify yourself? Welcome. First, I'd like to go over, everybody asks, what is a targeted individual? And the answers vary. Many people answer that I am tortured by the government. Others say that I am gang-stalked wherever I go. But in any case, we are all tortured individuals. Everyone you hear this evening. I'd like to start out with Lorraine, I guess.
Yes.
Do you want?
Hi, Frank.
Hi. Do you want to explain what's been happening to you, like, over the years? And
Sure. First, my last name is Valente, V as in Victor, Alente.
yep.
I have a 501c3 nonprofit cat rescue. I'm starting in 2012. But prior to that, I was just caring for some feral cats outside. I'm also a health psychologist. So I have 2 psychology degrees, one undergraduate and one a master's degree. But my targeting, to the best of my knowledge, started in 2012. It may have been a little bit before that because there were a lot of unusual events happening then. But what I've come to realize is that all targeted people are under surveillance for quite a long time before any real boots on the ground, harassment, stalking, break-in start. So there's the surveillance, the watching, and that was happening to me a lot. I actually photographed people photographing me. I didn't know what was happening. I know that there were some nonprofit cat rescue people in New Jersey who were doing a lot of unethical, amoral things with feral cats. They were dumping them in my cat colony, stealing my cat, posting them on Adopt a Pet for adoption. And because they have attorneys on the board, on their board of directors, they would always get off on doing these horrendous things. And some of them were local. One is a national nonprofit that's widely well known. They're all engaged in animal trafficking, every one of them. And because animals can't speak for themselves, and they all pay these lawyers to get them out of trouble, and then anybody that gets in their way, sort of like somebody like me, will get placed on a terrorist watch list to discredit me. But I know that the police department is involved, because each time that I would report my home break-ins, vandalism, theft, the police department would never correctly write the incident report. It was always falsified. Evidence that I provided was never included. Even if I had a witness, they would never include the witness testimony. They would discredit it. And none of my incidents ever made it to the police blotter. The police blotter is where the local newspaper would get their local news from. So not one in all the years that I reported break-ins. I even my mother hired a security consultant. I had 4 different security systems installed. My deadbolts were replaced 3 times. And it was very expensive, tedious, time-consuming. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that I was included in some kind of horrific torture program that would last my entire life, even if I moved. And I did move to rural Kentucky in 2019, not because of the targeting. I had intended on moving anyway. But they actually blacklisted my house from selling for 3 years. And while I was there, they were murdering my pets, experimenting on them, experimenting on me, breaking into my house. I incurred more than $300,000 in vandalism. And then to top it off, the icing on the cake was the Manalapan Police Department decided one day they were going to bring me a property loss statement. But instead, they brought a mental health worker, said that I filed too many police reports, ignored all of my evidence, and decided to haul me off to the local Centra State emergency room, where they proceeded to drug test me until my mother,
Lorraine,
who drove 2 hours to pick me up and bring me home. This was all a discrediting campaign, and as you know, this happened to our dear friend and journalist Romola D recently. So this too happened to me. I was only there for 6 hours. But this is a way to discredit people from speaking the truth.
Exactly. And I wanted to ask you, did you feel...
there's a lot more has happened here in Kentucky. It has continued here. And for the record, and since we're on the air, one of the individuals who is working here against me in Kentucky is actually from New Jersey. I recognized her. I saw her when I was in town in July of 2019, and she was driving a vehicle that looked very similar to one that was in New Jersey. She looked somewhat like a private contractor or an FBI agent she had black hair. And she was driving a vehicle with an emblem on the front. And I did provide her license plate to the local sheriff that never included it into the police report. And actually, some of the incidents here have not been reported by the sheriff. They're completely ignoring the vandalism, the theft, and discrediting me here as well. So I'm receiving the same kind of torture, I'll call it, human trafficking, theft, asset stripping, real estate mobbing, as I did in New Jersey. But the quality, how do I say this nicely? The quality of neighbors has significantly depreciated here. I'm in rural Kentucky, 803 people in this city. In Manalapan, New Jersey, in a home where I lived for 30 years as the original owner. It was, an upper scale, middle class neighborhood, and now I live in a remote rural town. And the people think it's okay to just whip out their weapons and shoot your no trespassing sign.
Lorraine, did you notice anything different? Were the police still involved when you moved to Kentucky?
Yes.
Yes.
This is really interesting because as soon as I moved here, the sheriff paid me a visit. He actually drove up, introduced himself, and I thought, oh, how nice. Oh, how nice this is. I'm in a small town. This is so cool, But no, he wanted to see who the new target was. The advice that he gave me was to get a gun and get a dog. And then later he revised it. And he said, get a gun, a dog, and a husband. I kid you not.
It's not funny, but I think he meant it to be funny. We have a lot of targets, targeted in many different ways. And I would like to hear from, I think, Dayna. And we'll try and keep these intros a little short so we can get into talking roundtable style. Go ahead, Dayna.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Okay, I grew up in Southern California. I live in Arizona now, and I've been in Arizona for about 2 years. I grew up in the Santa Clarita Valley, which is located kind of north of, I would say, Hollywood. If you're looking at Hollywood, I'm north. My dad worked for Hollywood. He worked for ABC TV, and I grew up in a family that basically almost every brother of mine worked in show business. My targeting started as a child. I was probably 5 when it all started. I had some really crazy things happen that I didn't understand. And my dad was a veteran. He was a soldier during World War II, so he taught me a lot about World War II and Nazis. And anyway, what started happening was I think, in my mind, I believe that I was a test guinea pig for weapons assaults, because I think I was about 9 when I experienced electric current hitting my legs when I'd be laying in bed. And I would scream and cry, and my dad would come in and say, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Why are you crying?" I said, "Something's hurting my legs," and so I'd go sit in the bathtub, and soak my legs. But this went on for decades. But not only that, I would hear what I believe was some kind of sound vibrations of people talking. So I was hearing voices, but I've already been tested for schizophrenia by a psychiatrist, and it's negative. I'm not schizophrenic.
Dayna.
But I was hearing at that time people saying, "Get up, get off the bed, get up, get out of the bed." And then I would feel the current run through my legs.
Dayna.
Come to find, yeah.
How old were you when they decided to test you for schizophrenia?
This was in my 30s. I was tested because I was hearing voices all throughout my life. I would hear voices. And I told him that I was hearing voices. And he asked me what the voices were saying. And he went over everything with me. This psychiatrist was listening to everything that I said and wasn't coming up with a diagnosis right away. He wanted to hear my whole story. And most psychiatrists, like I went to 2 psychiatrists. The first one said that I was schizophrenic. And the second one said, "You're not schizophrenic. You have post-traumatic stress disorder. And I hear you about the VTK, the, voices. I hear you about the electronics. I know all about it," he said.
He understood.
So that confirmed. He understood. He knew because he was a highly trained professional psychiatrist but he also worked with military vets in the past. So he told me, he said, you have PTSD and you're not crazy, is what he said. And that's the report he gave. But the first doctor, his name was Dr. Ross, he said, you're paranoid schizophrenic. And I said, okay, I have barely even got out my story and you're already diagnosing me and you already want to pop pills down my throat. I don't think that's going to work for me. And I said, plus, you know that people are being tortured with electronics and they're being tortured with B2K. This was in my 30s that I told him that. And people are doing electronic assaults on people. And you know damn well what I'm talking about. And that was the first doctor. So I said, you're a fraud. And I walked out. Okay. And I never took any medicines that he was trying to prescribe from him. But when I went to that second psychiatrist, he told me exactly what was wrong. And he said, you need a lot of healing. You need emotional healing, and you need to spend time reading, and you need to relax and do your best to ignore it. And then he said, I think in about a year, you're going to recover from all of it, because I had a nervous breakdown. That's what led me to go to him. It was so much stress that I had a nervous breakdown. I lost my job, and just my whole body was shaking.
That's common.
Anyway,
that's pretty common. That concludes. It's the trauma. That is the trauma that affects everyone. You are operating at the top of your envelope all the time. You never get a chance to rest your brain. Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move on to Marilyn. And we have to do some more talking, Dayna. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so after 9/11, that's when my targeting started. I lived in New York, and I was in a area in the Brooklyn area where I heard V2K. It sounded like a crowd of people talking, whispering. The facility was a rehabilitation place for people who were in recovery for addiction. I was in the art scene. I partied a lot. I worked for Russell Simmons in his art galleries, and I just had a lot of fun. I'll just put it that way. So after 9/11, I did notice everything seemed to go down the drain. My career, my friendships, my companion. And so it progressively got worse. And then I moved into Massachusetts, started working there, and that's when the targeting physically began, where the V2K was much more direct. It wasn't just something I heard in the background. It was insinuating and attacking through other people's vocals. So if a friend was talking to me and I wasn't paying attention, it would say something vulgar. And I was, kind of shy, and I'm not very aggressive naturally. I just ignored it. So that was abusive language. Well, the longer it went on, I figured out what it was. It was V2K. So they're not saying this stuff. So I just learned to ignore it. I asked, myself, how is this happening? Then it became paranoia. People were after me. I started to believe it. I had no evidence of it. I didn't see anybody. I just felt like people were following me. I moved to Ohio, where my mother is. And that's when the V2K turned into direct conversations with multiple people. I'm acknowledging you now. We're going to talk. I refused to talk to them. They were white males and a few white females. And observational stuff, as everybody who gets put in the program, it starts off Oh, I see your blue scarf. You're going to put that on. They're trying to give you a cue that they can see what you're doing. And, in an odd way, it was like an IQ test. So I started looking for cameras. I said, well, they could see that that's a blue scarf. How are they able to see this? I didn't find any cameras. And then I went online and Googled, people are after me. I'm hearing things. I was being cooked at night, but I didn't know what that was. I just assumed I was having hot flashes at a younger age. I even asked my mother, I said, I'm sweating through the sheets. It's hot in here. They were cooking me at night and doing remote neural monitoring dreams where hives of people collaborate to manipulate your brain to see images and hear things and see things in an attempt to mind control you and get you ready for the program, which is torture to the bitter end. I ignore these voices. And to cope, I did. I drank again. And I wouldn't suggest anybody do that, but I noticed that I just didn't care about the V2K and the stalking. Then it became a larger group of people. There seemed to be more people talking to my brain. I started shaking. I was nervous. I started to get anxiety. I said, well, this is something bigger than just me. And I just assumed it was the Air Force Base. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is here in Ohio. And I already knew that they were known for corruption. I knew that they took in Nazis from World War II. Ohio has a history of mind control experiments and conspiracies. It's just a strange little place. It's right next to Kentucky. And I just said, fine. I didn't know that there was a group. I didn't know that there were targeted individuals. I had never heard of any of you guys. So I would go back online and do research, and I found Stop EG. And I couldn't believe it, what I found. That they're actually reading my mind, seeing what I'm saying. That's how they're getting access to your bank information, your passwords. And he had a section where he wanted to train people how to protect their passwords for the computer and their banking information. And that simultaneously, while you are typing your passwords, you think of something else. I appreciated him, and I couldn't believe it. I really just couldn't believe it. Then I moved to Kettering, which is just a few miles from Dayton, Ohio. So I'm in Kettering, Ohio right now. That's when they start directed energy weapons, and I'm on death row. If they're basically trying to drive me to either get the V2K perps to kill me, which it is possible. You can be remotely tortured and murdered with the individuals and terrorists who are communicating to your brain. They torture me 24 hours a day. For the last 3 years, it's 24 hours a day. Last 20 years, it's just been, the gang stalking. So 10 years, 11 years, it's been direct energy weapon, feet, shins, knees, thighs, stomach, back, breast, arms, legs, especially the hands, especially the face and skull. They attacked my glands the first year. I had tetanitis for a year, and that was, I sympathize with anybody who has tetanitis. It's brutal, it's cruel, it is torture, and it stopped. Then I got a chatterbox form of direct vocals to the skull, to the brain, where I heard a white male tell me to kill myself for a whole year. And then that stopped. And I was like, oh, okay. Each year, progressively since I've been here, it's just gotten worse and worse. And every year I'm like, I don't think I'll be able to live through this. And each year I do. Now they are mind controlling me, walking me through the house, telling me what to do, I'm doing it. Mind controlling me to choke, vomit, sleep, pee, urine, feces, you name it. and they always come up with more of your nervous system is totally destroyed. And, I feel death, hovering above my soul. They're stealing feelings, juxtaposing their feelings on mine in reverse. Totally clean my memories and pass them around the community of Ohio. The perps are quite vicious here. So I basically, I'm a victim of brain fingerprinting. It's a multifaceted neuroscience weapon. It's a neurological weapon. It's a form of terrorism, torture. It's human trafficking, mind control, spying, avataring. They're juxtaposing their signal on top of mine. I can feel them on top of my body. They're trying to walk with me and move my body like an avatar. And then the electromagnetic shots into, now they're shooting my eyes. So that's what's happening here. I have made police reports. I've called the CIA, the FBI. I've written all the senators, congressmen, congresswomen. I've emailed leaders of other countries, universities, human rights organizations, political organizations with the deal with white supremacy, even white supremacists, to be honest with you. I've the ADL, the ACLU, the Mossad. I've called all military organizations, sent letters, the press, community leaders, small businesses to warn of the technology, K through 12 schools that the perpetrators are involved in child pornography. They're using the neurological weapon to traffic brain-to-brain communication to do kiddie porn. Mm-hmm. I've reported that to human rights organizations to protect children's lives. I've told the community that I lived in, the mayor, Dayton, Cincinnati, Kettering, Lorraine. It's 25 people now. They're primarily Black. And they are psychotic. It's not, and it is synthetic telepathy. It's not a pre-recorded message that from AI. AI is involved in the communication between me and them. Their signals are now in my stomach, chest, arms, legs, feet, fingers, eyes, face, mouth, nose, and skull. Now, initially when it started, you know how you try to give an excuse for your abuser? A lot of people do this. People in bad relationships, people who are a victim of, there was something I did to bring this on. So I thought they were using my history with drugs and alcohol as plausible deniability. So that if I said that I heard voices, they would say, well, it's probably the alcohol and drugs. And so I quit to prove that wasn't true, but because I wanted to be sober. And it didn't change. And actually, the targeting got worse. So I periodically drink probably once every 2 weeks. I'll have beer. And so that's just for the record about what I am consuming. I do not do any drugs, hallucinogenics. I do not do cocaine or crack, or I haven't had marijuana for like a year. I'm an artist. Actually, I just called the gallery that that sold my artwork for their auction to raise money, keep the space open. And I'm in the website, Dayton Contemporary. I was like, oh God, I've gained some weight, And I'm standing in front of the, the wine table, and I'm like, the old me would say like, oh, that's a conspiracy. They're trying to say that I'm a drunk. But, it's just a lot of nonsense that goes through my mind. I have participated in activism. I've gone to 2 TI days, Chicago. Where's the other one?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Yeah. The Boston conference. That was great. I met Midge there. A lot of other TIs were there. That was one of the best moments in the targeting, was to meet other people. And a lot of them were, looked incredibly distressed. Most of them did, people who were there. And I had to leave early because I was targeted heavily. So now they're spraying my companion with dew. He's got scars on his face, his legs, his hands. They leave imprints on the furniture, the curtains, the floor, the carpet. They're like dropping bombs of dew all over the house, the car, even my mother's face.
How do you guys deal with this?
How do I deal?
Yeah, how do the two of you deal with it?
Well, he doesn't believe, like my mother she's a TI. She has V2K since the 80s. I think he's in denial. It was combative because I was desperate to prove. I was like, please believe me. It's incredibly stressful to be attacked in front of your companion and they not acknowledge it. So I push myself, I do normal things. I even held down a job. But now I'm starting to become disabled. I'm spied on 24 hours a day by a large group of people in the Midwest, and they're vicious.
Why do you think this? All right, somebody's got their mic open. Or who's on speakerphone?
Okay, that's me. I'm on speaker, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes an echo. Can you hear that?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you sound better than you ever have. I just wanted to say that this targeting has gotten to the point where I cannot stand it. The V2K all by itself is enough to drive someone crazy. If they started on someone the first day like they work on us now, I think they would be crazy in 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week. I know some people get attacked in different ways by the same equipment by different people. And we have to remember that. This is a spiritual battle, but we are fighting men. And that's men and women. When my targeting first started, it started with 2 males and 1 female. And then it sort of drifted off and became 1 male and 1 female. And then, from what I understand, this woman wasn't getting paid, and she left. So she left them flat, and now there's just 2 of them. But it's getting to the point where I try to put a show together. It's hard. I'll pull up some material, and they'll be all over me. Oh, you don't want to do that. You can't do that. You should do this one, or you should do that one. And they will stay on your reading comprehension. If you read something, they try and make you forget about it instantly, so that you're at the point in time where instead of being a fluent speaker, you become someone who is dogged down by this, dumbed down. And it has become quite embarrassing in social circles. And I'm sure that you all can agree with me. And anybody who would like to say anything, Lorraine, Dayna, Marilyn, anybody, just speak up, because this is a roundtable discussion, and I would like to hear your opinions, like Lorraine's opinion, Dayna's opinion, about what's happening to Marilyn. And we need to get these opinions out on the air so that people can understand what's going on. And we do have, I believe, a TI on the call who doesn't believe he's a TI. He's here, but he's here to listen. So would somebody like to speak?
Well, I'd like to add that, I'm familiar with what's happened with Marilyn. I remember when I first entered the community in 2017, Marilyn's story was very gripping to me, and I had not experienced anything remotely what she was describing. Although I did believe her, I was horrified. I believe that each one of us, including Dayna and anybody else on this call, has a program scripted, designed particularly for them as an individual. Since Dayna was targeted from childhood, that was very specific at certain developmental stages psychologically to program you. I do believe that all of the programs, no matter who it is, it's trauma-based mind control and also involves satanic ritual abuse. Those two combined. And of course, the COINTELPRO CIA torture that was brought here from Stasi, Germany, methods for controlling dissidents and dissuading opinion, etc. It's called Zersetzung, decomposition, decompose, deteriorate a person's life a little by little. But it's also largely experimental. I think with Dayna, everything is a big experiment. With Marilyn also, in my case, there's a lot of animal experimentation. Also with me, covert experimentation, incisions I've found on my body upon waking, scars that I've never had before, and asset stripping. Again, depending on if you have an apartment versus a home, a property, they target you differently. And you and I have discussed this on one of your previous shows. I call it real estate mobbing. It's just another method for asset stripping a targeted person, who might have come into money, have earned a higher salary in their lifetime, etc. It's a theft. It's a land grab. It's a property grab, and it is carefully designed towards each person. So there's a common thread with all of us. Like Dayna and I were speaking about what happened to her, how they target her dog, and I've experienced the exact same thing, and hundreds of other people that have contacted me exactly the same. So there is a common thread of what happens to pets. But our individual stories are based upon our personalities, our temperament, our family history, our DNA. If we pissed somebody off, if we were born into a military family, and that's what happened to me. I believe that one of my friends even asked me after she viewed some of my photos, she turned to me and said, "So who did you piss off?" Those were her exact words.
That's right. I often ask people the same question. Who did you have an argument with? Who did you really piss off the last time or recently? And a lot of people have remembered back to a certain incident that has actually been the cause in their eyes. But there are so many people out there. There are targets coming out of the walls now. And it's great to see, and at the same time, it's not so great to see. We all have signs of damage. And it's been over 10 and a half years for me now. Probably, I don't know, 10 years working on 7 months. And it's getting to the point where I have already tried to contact and contract a skip tracer, which is someone who will seek out and find the address of where an individual is. And he wouldn't guarantee that he would find the exact place. And it says right on his website that the person will be located. And one of the reasons is for a cease and desist letter to this gentleman. And they would not guarantee it. So I am seeking the services of yet another. And unlike a lot of targets, I know who this is. So, Dayna, would you like to add, or Marilyn?
Yeah, I wanted to say about Marilyn that, I've experienced a lot of what she's experienced in the way of the laser technology. I sent a picture to Frank of my leg on the bottom near my ankle a while back, and they were starting to burn my skin with those lasers. And they did it to me not too long ago again. They're trying to see how far they can go. And my only defense is prayer. And so I prayed for something to happen to them, that they wouldn't do it anymore. So I don't know. It's now peaceful in my house right now. It may not last. Tomorrow I might experience the same stuff I was experiencing before, but for now, I've had some good days where. Oh, oops! Are you there?
Oh yes.
Hello?
We're here.
Oh, okay. It sounded like it hung up. Oh, okay. So, like, I've had some good days now lately. I'm not getting hit as hard, and they're not hitting me in the head like they were with the weapons. But that bothers me. The burning, the lasers burning the skin really, really bothers me because I think that they're going to try to go farther with that. So, I don't know what defense we have, like, as far as shielding, but I'm sure if it does get worse, I'm going to have to, put something on me. I use wool. When they start to hit my ankles, I use wool and I wrap my legs in wool, and that helps. It attenuates the signal or whatever. So, but anyway, I just wanted to comment on some of the torture that she's experienced, I've experienced also.
Okay, and I'd just like to add that if she would like to speak up, Marilyn has scars from these attacks. And I happen to have a few of the same type, one of which is out of the circle of another. It seemed like they were trying to hit the same spot, but missed. So it's two identical circles. So it looks like an infinity symbol. So it looks different on everyone. It's taking its toll on me in the fact that they're just on me all the time. The same as Marilyn, the same as Dayna, same as Lorraine. And they're probably on you too, Kirk, and you don't realize it yet. I hope you can shake it. But it's a terrible thing. Whoop, there goes, somebody is on speakerphone again. It's a terrible thing to go through. You can't imagine spending your whole life having a great time, working hard, and then, you hit your 50s and you are up against this. It's like, what the hell is this? I couldn't believe it. And the fact that it's 10...
Isn't Meta, Meta, the Mark Zuckerberg's new platform for Facebook, Meta, isn't it the infinity symbol?
I believe it is. Yes, it is.
So I wonder if he has something to do with it.
Well, I have an interesting article on what he's trying to do. And it's a form of virtual reality. And I had just got a paper on it. And it goes into detail on just exactly what he is trying to do. And I wish I had read it before this show, and I would have all the information on it. But unfortunately, I was not able to do so. But what I will say is that we have a courageous group of people here. And Marilyn has been going up against this with the help of her friend, her companion. And it's not fair to either one of them because they have to fight this thing. It's like an unseen enemy that you cannot punch. You can't hit it with a bat. You can't knock it down. But we will one day. Because TIs in the community are getting upset. And I don't want to say getting upset. They are upset. I know Marilyn's beside herself. I'm beside myself. Dayna, I can't speak for you, but I think that you are beside yourself as well. Roy,
I've been going through it for so many years.
Go ahead.
Sorry, there's an echo. But I've been going through this for so many years that I've had 14 nervous breakdowns. And each time I've had to lay low, be calm, recuperate, and just pray. I have prayed my way through all of it, It's just, and then somehow, or other, I think it's like a miracle, really, that I am restored, so that I can work, so that I can feed my face. I've been able to survive is what I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for is I've survived all of it. And when I would hear those voices telling me what to do, I would say, should I obey those voices? Obviously not, because, like I said on one of your calls before, that they would tell me to kill myself. And I know a couple of those people, who they are in real life. I know who they are. And they would tell me to kill myself. And so, it's only made me stronger in many ways, but in other ways, I have grown very tired of it also. I'm done. I'm sick of it.
Right.
I truly am.
The reason why I basically chose you people tonight is because you have all had it with this in a different way. Lorraine moved from New Jersey to Kentucky. And I could have told her that it would follow her there. But many people don't believe that. And I can see why. Why would something follow you when you are moving away from it? Not to disturb it, to move away and get away from it and let it have its way with the area, which is, I assume, what you did. But it did follow you to New Jersey, and I'm terribly sorry to hear that. But
yes,
yeah, it's
horrific. It's as far as being done with it. And now that I know what's happening and I have the correct words to use, I am speaking out about it, and I'm fighting it, and I am documenting it. My neighbors have received cease and desist letters. I've been in court with one of my neighbors. I mean, of course, there's no justice, but it's all documented. It's all public knowledge.
Well, that's good.
So you know for sure that it is your neighbors that are using electronic weapons?
Okay, wait a minute. There are various aspects to what's happening to me and you and everybody. I can assure you that specific neighbors are involved in my vandalism, stalking, harassment, noise campaign, writing. I've recorded them. I've videotaped them. I've been in court with them. I have a videotape of my neighbor tearing out my newly installed gate. And I had an eyewitness who they threatened. Everybody that works on my property gets threatened, bribed to either perform damage or not work here. Oh, yes, and the sheriff, he knows what's going on. They all know what's going on. It's too small of a town.
Okay, so now I'm getting the picture. It's because the sheriff isn't really doing much because it's such a large organization and he doesn't want to get his butt shot. You know?
Well,
doesn't it sound like that's
the thing is, they take an oath to protect the Constitution and the Constitution of Kentucky. They also take an oath to protect and serve everyone without bias. That's not what I'm experiencing. And if you can't protect everyone, and if you're going to be paid under the table, then you got to turn in that badge. Because you know that what you're doing is hurting intentionally another person, an innocent person, for profit. And all of these neighbors are getting paid. They're getting paid under the table to asset strip me, shoot my cat dead, vandalize my property, try to steal my land across the street, and threaten witnesses. They have committed so many multiple crimes to the point where I actually called the FBI and reported my neighbor.
Lorraine, how many cats? How many cats have?
Okay, I'm going to tell you that I have rescued between New Jersey and here probably an excess of 75 cats. When I moved to Kentucky, I moved 28 cats with me. 2 of them got left behind in New Jersey that were later brought here. And then I adopted cats here that were stray. Since I am in Kentucky, 25 of my rescue cats have been poisoned, shot, murdered, hit with directed energy weapons. And every day, that rescue building, the metal roof, is hit with radio frequencies, loud bangs and booms that are recorded. It happens to my roof too, but it is every day since 2019, since I moved here in 2019. It is torture to my cats. I mean, cats have very sensitive hearing. Their personalities have changed. They've lost fur. They're skittish. This is not normal. In addition to when they're sending those radio frequencies to the roof of your house, it is bathing your environment in radio frequencies that are harmful to life and to the roof. I get it here. My windows shatter in my house. They have killed, literally, all the electrical devices in my house. Lamps, humidifiers, dehumidifiers, printers, my iPad. It's amazing. They piggyback on the electrical wiring in your house. And they use radio frequencies to put me to sleep. I don't get the V2K that Marilyn gets or that Dayna gets. But I get radio frequencies that will knock me out. I could be in the middle of talking to you on the phone, and they will knock me out with a radio frequency, and they will enter my house. They do things covertly to me, steal. They actually stole a bracelet on my wrist by putting me to sleep, walking into my house and stealing it. I can't think of anything more sadistic and scary.
Yes, and they pick on mostly,
humiliating,
yes,
right?
they pick on mostly women. And this really gets me, I'll tell you. It looks like 80-20 to me, or 75-25, whatever the numbers are. It's more women than men. And it's, I can't imagine, being, 5'2", eyes of blue, and had a wonderful life and having a wonderful life and run right in the middle of this. It's just really, it really gets me.
And what Dayna said earlier about the targeting of your face and your hands, I'm experiencing that too. I woke up with a 1-inch burn mark on my left wrist last week. I've got burn marks on my hands. They cut my fingernails off. I mean, they think it's funny. I don't know if they use a laser. I don't know how they do it. It's technology. Mm-hmm. I can't begin to explain how they do it. But it is sadistic. They've cut my hair. They cut holes in my clothing. They actually redesigned a new denim jacket to make it look like it belonged to a teenager, with the shavings and the holes and the shredding and stuff.
Oh, yeah. They
They're
wanted...
insane.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Hi,
they cut the
can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Marilyn.
All right, so the hands, they do tend to go after our hands and our feet. And I had to go to a sports doctor for all of the injuries related to this. And I told him this visit for my hands that I had the Havana syndrome. I knew that he couldn't do anything about it, but, to help me prove that the injuries were from something outside of me. Well, he looked at the x-ray and he said, it looks like arthritis. I said, well, arthritis on both hands? I don't use my left hand. That doesn't make sense. So I got an injection for the left hand. They still shoot my hands. I do have scars on them. They shoot my companion's hands. He has the same scars. I looked at my mother's legs. They're doing it to her legs. She's 80. Now, I know that, and this is kind of a question about the FCC. I know that they control our technology in the form of communication, right? So wouldn't it be logical that they have people there that are involved with this?
That's a good point. In fact, Helena had mentioned that. When I lived in New Jersey, I contacted the FCC. I didn't speak to them directly, but I left a message, and I gave them a list of dates and times, and nobody ever got back to me.
Yeah, I called the FCC recently, and I said, this is a new form of communication. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and it does have everything to do with the Havana syndrome, and that these people are being tracked through their brain activity, their bodies, or implant, and that it's a form of communication so that you are responsible partially for this because someone in your organization is involved, and that would mean that we could sue you. And so who do I call to make a complaint? This is basically how I talk to these people now. When it started, I was very shy. Me and my mother were both very shy, and she told me when I was in 3rd grade, but she didn't tell anybody else. I tell everybody. I called the Air Force Base today, right, Pat, and said the same thing. So it would make sense for all of us, ladies, that we would do a class action lawsuit And I know that they are attacking men globally. But it is a hate crime what they're doing. It's beyond a hate crime. It's an act of war against the human race to violate our brains this way, to take away our ability to have privacy to think, and then in addition to that, have people broadcast our thoughts to other people's brains, outside of other people's brains, recording it and uploading it onto a computer, and then using that same platform to shoot us with direct energy weapons. Who do we sue? And is it possible we can do this in 2022 before the year is up?
Love to. I'll tell you what.
Well, I know.
Okay, I'm getting an echo again. No speakerphones, guys.
The Environmental Health Trust has filed a lawsuit. I have a lot of information on it against the FCC because the FCC has not updated a lot of their rules and regulations since the 1960s. So if anybody's interested in that information, the Environmental Health Trust did file a lawsuit, and it's gone through the court system.
I'd love to have that information. Oh, and I appreciate your links that you send. I look forward to that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And you feel free to forward them to anybody that I don't have on my email list. Like Marilyn, I don't have her email address. And I'm sure there are other people. There are too many, so many people in the community, but you can feel free to share them with anybody.
Okay, I have a lot, too, that I would like to share. And Marilyn, do you have any questions, like for Lorraine or Dayna? I know you asked one here a few minutes ago.
Yes, I've thought about you a lot, Lorraine. And I missed hearing you. I miss hearing you on the conference calls.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so do I. Where you been?
Where have you been?
I'm in Kentucky. I used to live in New Jersey.
You can still join, though. I'll send you the number and the access code.
I think Frank had a call from Kentucky recently. I think it was James.
Really?
There's a lot of TIs in Kentucky.
There are. We're all separate, though. Like one that I'm in contact with, she's very proactive, and she and I wrote a bill to ban directed energy weapons. We did it 2 years ago. It was tossed or ignored last year. It was supposed to be on the table this year, and at the last minute, it was shelved until next year. They don't want to deal with it.
Well, this is the problem. Nobody wants to deal with this situation, and the buck gets passed. Well, it would appear that the buck is stopping with us. And if that's what it has to be, that's what it will be. And,
well, Frank, it's interesting. A lot of these politicians and their families are being hit. They're aware of what's happening. A lot of them know, and then a lot of people are afraid. They're not speaking up. They know it's happening. There are politicians, there are senators that know what's going on.
Yeah,
I mean, Rand Paul, our senator here in Kentucky, he even wrote a letter to the FBI a few years ago about how when they retire, they're still holding on to the security clearances and that they're searching databases for personal reasons and for other nefarious reasons. So people know what's going on out there, and nothing's being done. Like the ACLU in 2016, through a FOIA request, got a lot of information on the FBI terrorist watch list and the screening database. And they wrote a fantastic research report called Trapped in a Black Box, Growing Terrorism in Everyday Policing. And it systematically describes how you are nominated. So while we're always talking about what's happening to us in the programs and how to make it stop, why don't we go after the people who nominated us into this program? I think we need to expose those criminals who nominate innocent people just because you disagree with them, you divorce them, you piss somebody off. I mean, I'm an adult. If you and I don't agree on something, we can agree to disagree. But
Exactly.
These people get their knickers in a knot, and instead they put you on a torture list.
Okay, why would I asked Marilyn the same question last evening? Why would the United States government target its own diplomats? That's a big question I have for you.
We're being used. You know, we're being persecuted, but we're being used. And it's because we don't have anything to do with that filth. For one, we don't have to rely on doing these kinds of heinous crimes to survive, to be productive members of society, to be looked upon with favor by many people, because we have morals and we care about people. We have love in our hearts. You know, we don't want to hurt people. And this is why, is we're being used.
I think used doesn't go far enough. We all, excuse me, I've got a summer cold, I guess. We all get them. We are being abused and we are being hurt.
Right. That's right. You're right. I'm just saying that as far as the program, you know, their program is they're guinea pigs. And so being a guinea pig, I guess torture, cruelty, hurt, humiliation goes with it. You know?
Okay, I just wanted to bring up something. It's a little technical. And I've raved about this for years. And it's called power line communication. Now, you have in your electrical box a white common, a black line, and a green or bared neutral. This system uses the common and the neutral. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tens unit and I'm going to pump some serious juice into those two lines. Power line communication's been around since 1901. And Dr. Robert Duncan already said that it was used in conjunction with these weapons. So that's all I have to say about that until I get more information, and I will. One more thing. They are using it today, and they are using it in a private networking system, of which the grid is part of.
Yes.
And I sent Marilyn, I think I sent you the link to Lorraine. It's a piece of equipment that helps you get into the PLC network. But it's a serious game. And there's a town in Massachusetts up in the mountains, and they complained for years and years about this low humming sound. A lot of people left because of it. But what it turned out to be was the point at which the power line communication intersected the computer network, it made a noise. And it was only 700 hertz was the connection. The interface was the problem. But I went back to the website that they indicated, and the website has not been visited in years, or visited but not updated. So maybe the people have moved on. Comments?
I just wanted to mention one thing about why I think that they're doing it, besides the fact that, this is a revenge for hire program also. But the whistleblower, Brian Cochran, he mentioned that it's a social engineering program. Social engineering to control people, to experiment on them covertly, and that the targeted individuals were the test, and that it's going to be rolled out to the whole general population. I mean, parents are now being placed on terrorist watch lists for speaking out at board meetings. So it's not even about just disagreeing with like a narcissist. You piss off a narcissist and you're on their hit list for life. And that's how some people get nominated into this program.
I used to think early on, because I was very rebellious in school, and not in a violent way or aggressive, just politically, I just kind of said things that normal kids didn't really care about. I didn't pledge allegiance to the flag. I challenged them on the history books. I just, why are you teaching us all this nonsense? What am I going to do with this? Why are we tolerating this is obscene. Grade school to junior high, and I did sense then that something was watching me, and my mother would say like, oh, I think we have ghosts. And I didn't believe her, and I didn't believe in ghosts really, but I made up a lie to myself. I said, well, maybe it's aliens. It's this program. I think that they're watching our children in the country and watching us develop our brains, our personalities, to see what kind of people we're going to be when we're adults. And that could be part of it, like a section. And also a man with a group of other probably men and some women, European, wrote a book. The program is the same in China, Germany, Jamaica, Ireland, England, Spain. Now it's in Africa. The same program. So someone wrote the program. And who is it? Who's the psychopathic Nazi that wrote this bullshit? The process of kidnapping you, spying on you, on your brain, watching you, you and your mother. Like they did to me and my mom. If she had V2K, they were looking at me grow up, which is, that's a violation of it's like pedophilia. They're watching you.
Marilyn?
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are recording your sexual actions and selling it on the dark net, which I think I've just found, or another part of it. But that's what I think they are doing.
Yeah, and they are, and it's, I've been told by some TRs not to talk about that stuff, but when you are alone as a man or woman and you're loving yourself, or you're with your husband or wife, or you're gay or straight or whoever, they are there. And they look at your thoughts and they hive on you. I only give enough to just keep my man. I am not I do not practice sex at all. I've pretty much quit, if he believes it looks like the desert, then I'll say okay. But I'm not into being viewed remotely by 20 black guys, because it's basically 20 black guys right now that are terrorizing me to death. They have pornographic hive mind orgies. I hear them every day, every night. Thank God they're kind of slowing down. They're getting dumber. They're picking on each other. They're mind controlling each other. But they're using me as a scapegoat because I do not want to hive with them. And I assume that they attach me to these people because I am black. But I'm not interested in sharing my brain or my life with anybody brain to brain. I'm not qualified for that. You're not paying me. You didn't ask me. I didn't sign a document to give you permission. I mean, you could have done this with people with consent. And seriously,
Right.
in all seriousness, they could have supplied entire communities, and just had a little town somewhere out there in Montana and just, let them go at it and watch them till oblivion. But no, it's wrong. We have to get rid of the program. I am very curious about who developed it. Is my feeling that it is Nazi. I mean, the psychiatric community is totally a con. It's a group of bullies.
Yes.
Who are picking on people because they don't like their behavior. And you can go to you can report your wife who says things that you don't like and say that she's crazy, or the neighbor that has 100 cats. She's not insane. It's her behavior that you don't like. If you don't like that she has 100 cats, that's between you and her. You don't need to call the police or the psychiatric community on her. Artistic people that have little personality quirks and stuff. And I'll be even as bold to say that if you're a white supremacist racist living in the United States, and not that you're terrorizing me, but you have a racist opinion, go for it. Do I want you to be put in the program because you don't like black people? I don't care enough about you to have a program for you. Just don't touch us as black people. Just don't touch us. Just don't think about us. Don't call us names in public. But if you're at home having, an imagination about us, that's your business. But now someone can see it. Because I don't believe that all TIs have a beautiful psyche. I've heard some TIs that are racist. I've heard some TIs that were sexist. And not that good. And I do think that they go after all kinds of people, even criminals. Because they do recruit. Right. They recruit. I noticed in the V2K that's how they recruit. Somehow they're communicating brain to follow you in their red or white car. So I think someone says, okay, now get in your car, drive to so-and-so. Dayna's going to be there, and then we'll talk to her and say something crazy. Turn left, and you'll be right there. 3 red cars. Or they're doing. Now I'm drifting, but TI Day is August 29th this year, and we really need to come outside publicly as TIs. Show our face. We are brothers and sisters in this. Come together in public and let our country see us in a big way.
Agreed.
In an aggressive way.
Agreed, 100%.
We also need to rally for defunding the programs that allowed us to continue to pay neighbors, to pay people to harm us. Because when there's no money, most people are not going to work for free. They're not going to, although there are, several psychopaths out there, big people that like to harm people for nothing. But for the most part, these people, they're being paid And we need to defund the fusion centers, InfraGard, all these people that are involved in collecting data, slandering us, going into the communities and pitting people against each other, and also employing these weapons and asset stripping, breaking in, vandalism. And these are all felony crimes. And there's no recourse. There's no due process. It's all done in secret.
Frank, you said that Richard Lighthouse might be here. But I wanted to share with the women and you my idea for publicity. So Joe Rogan, who's also from Jersey, he's a podcaster. He was also an actor, television show presenter.
Yes, yes.
And his YouTube channel has 10 million subscribers. So we've all watched Joe Rogan. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist. And I thought it would be kind of cool because he's been on Joe Rogan multiple times. If him and Richard Lighthouse, who is a mechanical engineer, scientist, author, if the three of them could sit and talk about us and the possibilities of what the weapons are, and deGrasse would bring in a big crowd because lots of Americans, I love him. And I did email Joe Rogan and said, you know, what about Richard Lighthouse and deGrasse just kind of like chopping it up, you know, direct energy weapons, microwave weapons, science, all the terminologies and all the technology data that they could bring together in front of Joe, and then target and then say there are these women and men who are targeted by the government or military or whomever. And how would we get Joe Rogan to do this? You think it's a good idea?
But I think it's a great idea to engage any influencer, YouTube creator who has a wide audience to interview and or perform research on the topics of the things that we're experiencing. And I'm sure he already has. I mean, I'm sure people have approached him already. So, you know, approaching him again and asking him if he might do some kind of an expose on Havana syndrome, which is now widely known and reported in the news, and the targeted, well, instead of using the word targeted individuals, the terrorist watch list, which has been in the news also recently, and how once you get on, you don't get off. There's no redress. There's no court. There's no method for understanding that you were placed on a list. They won't confirm or deny. They won't confirm or deny that you are, but you are, and you are placed on a list and shuffled from list to list to list indefinitely, according to the ACLU research, that expose, Trapped in a Black Box. So that is something I would love to see him address, and read that document and talk about how so many people are being placed on watch lists. And the thing is, what people don't realize is once you're placed on a watch list, it's not that you're just being watched. Like Karen Stewart wrote an article in the Activist Post called Is This Surveillance? And in her article, she talked about what surveillance is and what it isn't. It's one thing for us to be watched, but it's another for your house to be broken into, your pet being dragged out of their place to sleep, having their eyes torn out of their head and thrown out in the rain on Christmas Day, or hitting your pets with directed energy weapons, breaking into somebody's house and rotting all the food in their refrigerator. That's not surveillance. this slow kill program where they're using directed energy weapons on your hands and your feet and your legs, pulsing your body at night where it's vibrating. This is not surveillance. This is torture.
Right. Well, the surveillance is used by the perps to learn every little thing that you're doing so that they can follow your habits. Your habits are everything to them. This is how they predict what you're going to do, and this is how they say they are ordering you around. But what they are doing is actually following you around, watching you do the same habitual tasks that you have done for years. And this is something where I'd recommend, I have to take my own advice, and that's to change your routines on a regular basis. It'll take them a while to learn these new routines, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and the 9/11, I initially did believe it was because of 9/11. And even though I knew that my mother was a TI, but they used 9/11 to break down the brain and privacy. And Dick Cheney is the psycho that I think is initially involved in kidnapping so many more Americans on the basis of protecting the country from terrorists. And they interrogate you at home when you're alone, in your bed, when you're sleeping. And they can interrogate you walking without you even knowing that you will answer questions subconsciously. I don't know if any of you have woken up after a dream of interrogation. What are you going to do then? And then when you go there, what are you going to do? And who are you? All this kind of crazy nonsense. And, I'll be honest, what do I think about the United States? If you're doing this to us, there is no United States. And, the police are much better than the CIA and the FBI. If the CIA came here and believed that I was a problem, took me away, they would do exactly what they're doing to us with their fist, and any little tools they had in a little room. They are psychotic people that go work for these organizations, and they are intentionally going into our schools, trying to find young kids to join this massive army of psychopaths that want to harm people, and they're using protecting us as an excuse to funnel money from drug cartels, using brain EEG cloning, selling us sexually. They're involved in sex trafficking, child trafficking, creating wars, participating in wars. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we really need to come together to try and expose this and stop this. They're getting too powerful. The CIA is in every country. The FBI is in every country. The watch lists and for guard freaks are in every state almost. Our military-industrial complex is the most massive, most powerful group of people. They're on the coastlines of every country. We have no freedom. I have no freedom. I'm a slave. After all of that fucking work with Jim Crow, are you effing kidding me? I'm a slave again? And I'm not hysterical? I should be hysterical. So much for women are hysterical. How many TI women, it's like all this sexist, hateful speech about our emotional, behaviors. And now you're going to torture us. And and the majority of us, some of us are still working and taking care of our children and holding down the home while we're tortured. The body can endure a lot. So let's expose these people and punish them and get revenge. I want revenge. I don't want just a settlement. I want both.
Just say this,
I know,
Marilyn.
me too.
Yeah, that's a big me too. But let's just change it so we don't breach certain moral codes. We want justice, however it
Right.
comes.
I want justice. Yeah, there is no justice, though, in this country anymore. Justice is bought and sold. A lot of justices are bought. Judges, lawyers. Lawyers are involved in these torture programs, just the way psychiatrists are. And it's despicable. And it baffles the mind how many people have sold their souls for a gift card, a new car, whatever it is. We've turned into such a materialistic society that people are willing to harm other people for money. They're criminals.
You're exactly right, Lorraine. Excuse me, 100% right. This has become a totally materialistic society. And I just wanted to interject that put your cash away, okay, as much of it as you can, because interest rates are on the edge of 9%.
Wow.
It hasn't been like that since God only knows when. But yeah, we're in big trouble, and there is definitely going to be one stock market crash. And then after that, following that one, will be another. This is what I understand from people in high places. So get ready.
So you're saying to get your money out of the stock market. Is that what you're saying?
You're going to wake up one morning and there's going to be nothing there. Unfortunately, a lot of people have money in IRAs, and it's going to take its toll everywhere. Everywhere. And it's because of mishandling of government funds. Government funds have been mishandled. We are funding a war in Ukraine, and I think it's a wonderful thing to help Ukraine. At the same time, what about the people at home in the U.S.?
Yeah, we need to help ourselves first. Isn't that what they teach you when you board an airplane?
Yes.
Is put your gas, put your oxygen mask on first before you're going to help your neighbor.
Yeah, or else you won't be able to help your neighbor.
And I do appreciate like this whole new generation of people that are into politics, but it's not just protesting. It's really monitoring the state. I mean, the government. Like you literally have to have a certain part of the civilian population monitor the government, or at least getting a career in the space to keep an eye on the military, the government, the banks, of the FCC. I mean, if we could get like a TI mole to go into the FCC, I mean, we could do it in reverse. You know, we could train young TIs to go into the enemy space and see what they're doing before they, and, have a specific group in another activity to actually become a gang stalker, to pretend that you are one and meet someone in V2K and then give them to us. Have an army of young people who don't get on the calls, don't go to websites on their computer, and just kind of like hang back and say, maybe I'll be a gang stalker too. Or payouts to perps. And like in V2K, I've said, I don't have the money to do this, but I said, I'll give you $5,000 if you give me some of the names in the hive. Then if some of you are poor. And they know that they're, in a conspiracy about the Havana syndrome. They watch me lay on the floor, twitching with dews when they're spraying my entire body with directed energy weapons. Are, the spies that are with us. They listen to us on the conference calls. They're watching us. That's millions of people globally that are helping these big organizations conspire against destroying our lives. It's the biggest. And I'll tell you what else I did. I wrote letters to the wardens of the federal prisons in the United States. I said, you can release most of the people you have, and you could make a killing off of, the gang stalkers, the shooters who are doing, electromagnetic weapon pulses hitting families across the country. The computer programmers in R&M, all of it. I mean, even law firms. I've written law firms and said, this is the biggest lawsuit that it makes January 6th look like toddlers playing with Barbie dolls. That it makes it look like a joke. It really does. It is the biggest thing that's
every
Sorry. The problem with the idea of doing is this, that it is a huge, monstrous military operation. So how do you compete with that? And if it is, no one's going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. That's the problem with alerting even the attorneys, because now the attorneys are going to be paranoid that somebody contacted them about this issue. And they're not going to help. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be negative. So just, for us to have that in proper perspective is wise on our part.
I agree. I could not even get 2 attorneys to write my will. Is that amazing?
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep. Here in Kentucky, I've contacted attorneys, and one held on to it for 2 months, and then said that she couldn't write it, even though I had it all printed out for her. All she had to do was recopy it, add Kentucky law, add my name, and it would have been a done deal. She didn't do it.
What does that tell you?
Well, they're contacted because we're being surveilled. They know who we're going to call in advance, and they contact those individuals to either discredit us, bribe them, threaten them, any of the above, tell them a false narrative. I had one narrative going on here that I don't pay people, which couldn't be further from the truth. I always pay people on time and more than what they deserve. But I've had people vandalizing my property and overcharging me now. But no, I could not get a lawyer. I tried to hire an attorney to prosecute my neighbor for ripping out my gate. On the day of my appointment, he was incommunicated with me, did not return my calls, didn't check his email. His secretary wouldn't return my call. Nothing. I tried the day before, the day of, no response. What I started to do is writing negative reviews on Yelp. If I feel powerless to get the things that I need because of this program, I'm sure as hell going to make a loud voice about it and report everything that goes on, whether it's on Facebook, on my YouTube channel, Alternative Homesteading, where I walk around my property and talk about targeting, on Twitter, or even calling the local newspaper and, giving a shout out to my criminal neighbors, which I've done in the past. So no, I'm not going to stay quiet over this. If I've committed a crime, come on, bring me the paperwork. Let's go to court, right?
Lorraine, anytime you want a platform to speak on, Marilyn, Dayna, any of our guests, anybody who would like to get on a platform and speak out, you're welcome. Just give me a call, at 508-857-8334. And if you get our news,
thank you.
sure, anytime you want a platform, anytime you want to join, just call me up and say, hey, Frank, what's happening on radio tonight? And we'll just go from there.
Okay. I want to say that taking pictures of the marks on your skin, I got my biggest burn that they gave me was on my hand. Actually, no, that was on my head. On my hand, they gave me one. And I took a picture the next day, but I should have went to the, they told me to forget what I was saying. Oh, God. What's the little clinic that we have now? It's not ER. It's called, anyway, the doctor. Urgent care. Whenever they do this, go straight to urgent care, take a picture with your cell phone, put it in a document, microwave burns. These marks are all over your body, especially after 10 years. And some of them it's real subtle. They're like little rings. Some are all, on your feet, especially your shins. And take a camera, stand outside, have someone take a picture with no makeup, your face, front, side, your neck, your legs, and all that. And then go on your computer and scan the photos, and you'll see the patterns. You'll see and this is what connects us to this big evidence. But always take a picture.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Sasha was going to look for a camera to do just that. And she had two choices, either go to a studio or buy this camera herself. And I said, well, why don't you buy the camera, which is a lot less. You'll have the camera and you'll be able to take the pictures or have somebody take them. She's got...
Yeah, but you could use your cell phone. I mean, the new cell phones now, like this is my friend's phone. They take beautiful pictures, because I garden. And they beat me to death. I did tulips this year. This is the third or fourth year we did tulips. I mean, they make me so sick. They have me puking in public outside in a shovel and my little garden hat. I'm trying to act like I'm normal. It's horrible. But, your cell phone, I've taken some really beautiful photographs. I have a Canon that's, I can tell you what kind it is. It takes, and they're pretty cheap. They're not even $100. I love this camera. And you can take pictures of your injuries, your burns. It's a Canon PowerShot ELPH 180. So Sasha can get that.
Just for the TI community, what does that camera cost?
Say it again.
What does that camera cost?
This is, if I remember correctly, you can get it for like $80 maybe on Amazon.
Well, that's a good price, but I will agree with you that, like the new iPhones, the cameras, you have 3 lenses. I mean, the one I have is fantastic. It takes beautiful pictures. But it's still, you don't have the feeling of a camera, but at the same time, it takes beautiful pictures. And I'm the point and shoot type guy. I don't want to mess with a camera. I just want to point and shoot. Is that what this Kodak does?
Yeah, it has a zoom lens. You can do video, and you can upload it onto your computer, the photos. It's a little computer.
Okay,
I'm going to look up the
fantastic.
price of it real quick.
Yeah, while she's doing that, Dayna, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yes. I'm here.
Go ahead.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to know if you wanted to make any comments.
Wanted to make what?
Any comments, I'm sorry.
Oh, any comments? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any comments about the cameras, but because I don't really know much about the iPhone or any of that technology. But I was working until today. I left my job today because it was temporary work. And I just want to give you guys the example and get some feedback on what you think this is, okay? I work for, it's like a thermoplastic, or not plastic, but it's a acrylic plant. They make windows for airplanes, and they make acrylic sheets, and then they send them to different companies internationally. So I learned my part in working for that company was I had to do all data entry and quality control and auditing. So I did that. So this is the most bizarre thing about working there is I didn't want to do temp agency, but I went anyway to work for this temp agency. And the woman that was my boss was a girl I grew up with in Southern California. And you know how the perps always say that there are no coincidences, Dayna. I had people tell me that. There are no coincidences, Dayna. Well, she actually worked in HR, but was my boss. So I had to take orders from her. So I did my job perfectly, beautifully. I even made cupcakes for the office, you know, for everybody. I made 30 cupcakes, and I had a smile on my face every day. I was on time every day. I did my job well. Not one time did she come and say, "You're doing a great job, Dayna." Not one time. So I asked her yesterday, I said, "How is it you never say good morning to me, and I say good morning to you every morning?" "I don't know. I have a lot on my mind," she said. I said, "Oh, okay. Well," and sometimes when I say good morning, she'd say, like that. Like, "Oh, it's not a good morning." So anyway, she was cornered by me today because I said, "Hey, the person that I'm working under the credentials of in the computer is leaving. He's retiring. So have you made a decision of whether or not you're going to hire me permanent?" I still have to talk to the general manager. And I said, "Okay, but I'm past my due date because my contract with the temp agency is expired. So have you given me a favorable report to the general manager?" She says, "What does that mean?" I said, "What do you mean?" "What do you mean? What does that mean? Have you given a favorable report about my work and my work ethic? I'm a great worker." And so she says, "Well, you didn't do a couple things." And I said, "What? What couple things?" "You didn't finish mopping the floor." They made me mop the floor on Wednesday outside the plant. Yeah, isn't that sick? She's a sick, demented person, okay? So I said, "Well, I did it as a favor, but I told you I'm not going to do that because that's not what I'm hired to do here. And you know that. My job description is not housekeeping." And so she goes, "Well, you don't have to talk to me like that. I'm not going to let you talk to me like that." And I said, "Well, am I going to be hired permanently or not?" And she goes, and I didn't say it this aggressively. I just said it, matter of fact. "Well, am I going to be hired or not?" And she said, "I don't know." She's all stammering. And I said, "Okay, so you don't know, and the contract's expired, so that means you're not going to hire me permanent, right? Am I understanding you correctly?" And she goes, And she's all nervous. And I said, well, and further, why didn't you tell me if I didn't do something right? Why didn't you come and tell me right away? And so no compliments, no praise of my good work there to help her get unburied, because when I got there, it was a pigsty in that office. I dusted everything. I cleaned the filing cabinets down. I mean, I washed everything. I organized everything. I put everything in the filing cabinet. I did everything for her. And she never said, "You're doing a great job" to me. So I said, I guess she got mad. And so finally she said, well, you can just leave, like that. And so I said, okay. I went and got all my stuff off the wall. I hung some stuff. I took everything and I left. I couldn't believe it. So, and then she's the girl that lived in LA, right down the street from me.
Wow.
Now, don't you find that weird?
Yeah.
Well,
no coincidences.
Like they said, there are no coincidences. Count your blessings. Would you want to work for somebody like that doesn't acknowledge your accomplishments or validate anything? She can't even have an intelligent conversation with you. So count your blessings and go somewhere else, unfortunately.
I know. And so when we were young and she used to live down the street, she was jealous of me and hateful. And so I looked at her and I said, you're still jealous and hateful. You know that? You still are. And I left.
Well, good for
I couldn't
you
believe
it.
Okay, guys, I think it's time to go home for the night. So with that, I will say good night to my wonderful guests. Good night to
Good night.
the people that support us in our audience. And good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.